G'day, it's Heath here from pickinglessons.com. Childgrove is a pretty little tune in the key of A minor. In this lesson on the mandolin, we're going to take a look at an arrangement that is really suited to the advancing beginner. There are techniques in here that you really want to be thinking about if you've been playing for a little while, but you really want to progress to the next level. In this arrangement, we have two variations for both part A and B, and in a moment, we're going to take a look at the first variation of part A to get us going and have a look at some of the techniques that we really want to get our fingers around. But if you head on over to pickinglessons.com, you'll get yourself a copy of the chart we're working from. We've got the notation and the tablature in there. You'll also find the next part of this lesson where we'll break down part B for the first variation and then part A and B for the second variation as well. So pickinglessons.com. Okay, let's start out with a slow playthrough of the first part A. Then we'll break down and touch on the techniques that we really need to cover. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was the first variation of part A. Now, we're in the key of A minor. We're playing out of the open position. So as a more advanced beginner, you should be pretty familiar with where your fingers are going to be placed in the open position. I'd also think that by this point in time, you would also have your picking fairly under control. So just to summarize what we're going to be approaching for our picking, basically for something like this that's in 4/4 time, we're picking down on the beat, and then down, up for any eighth notes. Now there's some variation of rhythm we'll have a look at as we go through, but that's the basic principle there for your right hand. Some of the articulation that we're going to cover in this first part of the lesson really is something you want to start thinking about as well as a more advanced beginner. These are the techniques you really want to start to incorporate into your playing to get more out of what you're doing, some more embellishment, some variation in tone. All right, so let's have a look at what we're doing here. Now, just through the first 4 measures. We have a couple of things to watch. Firstly, in measure 1. Measure 1. The staccato note. The dot above the note is the staccato, and what that means is we're going to play that particular note short. We're going to keep it short and detached from the next note. So have a close listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beat 2 in this case, and beat 4, we're playing short notes. We're detaching it from the next note coming in. So we're not playing it smooth, we're not playing it legato, which would sound like that. We're playing it with that staccato note, which sounds great. It's a nice articulation that works really well. It's something that as you progress through your playing, these are the type of techniques you really want to start to incorporate. It's a great little variation. Gives us a variation of attack on that note. Now, putting it in context, just a little bit quicker, it really does add to the feel. I'll play it without. So it's a subtle difference, but it's a difference nonetheless. So it certainly adds to the character of what we're doing. So that's the staccato note, that's in that first measure. That's the dot placed above or below the note, depending on which note we're playing. Moving on, measure 2. Measure 2, we're looking at a variation of rhythm perhaps that is a little more tricky, but again, you want to get your fingers around it. The counting through this second measure, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Eighth note to the quarter note to the eighth note to quarters. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 with a hammer on in there. So that's nice smooth legato hammer on. Make sure you feel that count. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. We have a similar thing in measure 3. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So you really do want to make sure, firstly, you're getting that rhythm accurate, but also the strength for the hammer on. The smoothness that we can get from the hammer on is really nice to include in our playing. Again, it's another articulation, but it does want to be played nice and strong so that we can hear that second note. So make sure the hammer on is firm. instant placement of that finger you're hammering on is really important. Okay, so we're moving on through measure 4. Measure 4, we have the dotted quarter note. So again, another rhythm variation that you really want to be around. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So a dotted quarter note is a 1.5 beat count into the 8th note. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And speaking of our picking, while we're counting that 2, down, up to the next note. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Down, up, down, up, down. So again, keeping an eye on the rhythm, how our picking structure fits around that as well is important. Moving through the second half of part A here, we're very similar. 5 and 6 is like the beginning. Moving into measure 7. Another staccato note on beat 2. 1, 2, hammer on. Half note there, 2 beats to finish off before we get the pick up into our repeat. The second ending will be slightly different. We'll look at that in the next lesson. So part A of this great little tune, Childgrove, A minor, we're in the key of A minor. So as a secondary part of what you can practice here, you could work on your A minor scale. That's certainly something that will help consolidate the notes you have in the melody, the A minor scale, but also working on these variation of techniques. So in this case, we've got the staccato, we've got the hammer-on, the rhythm variations, okay, bearing in mind that that's all important, watching the right hand technique and your left hand technique. You shouldn't even be thinking about which fingers you're using by this point in time as a more advanced beginner. Okay, so head on over to pickinglessons.com. We will follow this up with the next 3 lessons that cover part B, first variation, then the A and B variations as well. You'll also find a backing track and a play-along track. Once you get to know the tune, you can use those to help you practice. pickinglessons.com. I'll see you there.